The webinar will last approximately 40 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. The objective of this webinar is really to provide you with an overview on the indicators of success of SCP. So what are they, how do they work, and why it is beneficial to report on them. And just to give you an overview of what the agenda is, as I mentioned, we'll have a first part which is basically the presentation part. We will go through the principles of the indicator. We will provide you with an overview of the actual indicators and what we are measuring in terms of demonstrating the shift to sustainable consumption and production. We had a pilot reporting at the beginning of 2017. This will give you an idea of what comes out of the reporting and how it can be used and the value of the reporting throughout the 10YSP network. Sophie will then give you a quick overview of the online reporting tool that we've developed. And following that, we'll have a question and answer session to which we look forward to any clarifications and suggestions that you have. So in terms of the principles, and just before we start, I guess really the indicators of success have been developed through a consultative process, largely by the 10YSP Monitoring and Evaluation Task Force. You will see at one of the sites who has been part of this approach. And in terms of principles, basically and objectives, what are we looking at? So the objective is really to guide and measure in a participatory way the collective impact and key milestones in the global shift to sustainable consumption and production. There are two main objectives, one of which is a little bit more internal and one more external. The internal objective is really to help us assess and improve the performance across the 10YSP network, which may help us in informing planning of activities, allocation of funds, and prioritizing what we're doing within the 10YSP network and within the 10YSP program. The second objective, which is a bit more external, is really looks at helping us to report and demonstrate progress, basically give visibility to the work that we are all doing that supports the shift to sustainable consumption and production. It helps us to show accountability towards all actors and donors, to communicate results to a wider public, and to mobilize further political and financial support on sustainable consumption and production. So really, I think that the key message is that the indicators of success enable all members of the 10YSP and beyond to showcase your efforts, to showcase the progress and the impact on sustainable consumption and production. It allows you to include your tools and practices as part of the solutions that the network can offer to support countries.
I'm just going to ask you all to mute yourselves if you have not already done so. I'm just going to mute here so we don't have interference. Thank you. Go ahead.
This view that really back to the core of what the 10YSP is, and the 10YSP as an implementation mechanism of SDG 12. The 10YSP is target 12.1 of the SDGs, and the indicator around that is really to design, adopt, and implement policies in support of the shift to sustainable consumption production. So the indicators allow us to track and map how all the organizations involved in the 10YSP can support countries in that shift. So as a brief overview of the indicators of success, as I mentioned, this was the work of the Monitoring and Evaluation Task Force. There was an extensive work done by the task force through 2016 and 2017. It's really based on the 10YSP objectives and functions as stated in the Rio Plus 20 document, and you will see that as we will go through the presentation, it really aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, putting SDG 12 at the center, but really linking up to all other relevant SDGs, considering the transversal nature of sustainable consumption and production. And of course, it links to relevant international processes such as the climate change agenda, for instance. So the framework in itself consists of a limited and non-exhaustive set of aggregated indicators, which are realistic, measurable, attributable, and within the scope of SCP. So one of the biggest challenges that we've had as monitoring and evaluation task force is really to look at this limited and non-exhaustive set. What are the common indicators across the 10 YSP that really helps us in monitoring this progress? The second component of this framework is the associated methodologies. We won't go into the detail of this, but basically every single indicator has a methodology associated to this in terms of metadata sheet, which you will find in the full document that will be circulated after this webinar, to help you with defining what are the boundaries of what we're actually measuring within each indicator. The third component of this framework is the process. So what are the roles and responsibilities throughout the network in making use of these indicators? And the fourth and last component are the tools that can help us through the different stages of monitoring and reporting. So just before we go into the indicators, I just wanted to provide you with a background in terms of, we'll skip to point 3 on the process, but just give you an understanding of what are the expectations and the roles and responsibilities across the 10 YSP network in relation to these indicators. So each initiative in the 10 YSP program is invited to report on results, on the results. So in terms of, you're invited to report not only on your project, but on the activities within these initiatives that directly contribute to meeting the objectives of your program. Then, of course, within different programs, you have established different processes of how an initiative is associated to the program. That is really the process that you have defined in the program, and this cuts across it. So whatever framework you have defined within the program will help you then to report. Every 10 YSP actor is therefore expected or invited to monitor and report the progress of these activities through the online reporting tool that Sophie will present at a later stage. The 10 YSP coordination desks and co-leads will really look at much more of the quality assurance of the activities reported within the context of that framework. They will also, in consultation where relevant with the program actors or the multi-stakeholder advisory committee, are identifying best practices and facilitating collaboration or the scaling up and replication of activities throughout the network. The 10 YSP national focal points, for those of you on the call that are national focal points, of course, the main role of the national focal points in the context of the indicators of success is the monitoring and reporting against target 12.1 of the SDGs. For those of you who are national focal points, you have received the communication about a month ago on the pilot testing of the reporting on the indicator 12.1.1 of the SDGs. The 10 YSP Secretariat behind this really monitors the overall progress of the 10 YSP. So we take all of this data, we consolidate it, we aggregate and disaggregate according to the type of information that we would like to communicate. We also prepare the annual 10 YSP report to the high-level political forum, the entity that reviews the progress on the SDGs on an annual basis. As target 12.1 of the SDGs and as implementation mechanism for SDG 12, the 10 YSP reports on an annual basis to the HRPF. And the information, the core of the information in this report comes from 10 YSP indicators of success and what you have reported as your contribution to the shift to sustainable consumption. In the case of this year's reporting that we are launching now, the results that we will be collecting and the the progress that we will be identifying through the data that we will be receiving will also be used as a basis to inform the next 10YST strategy, the strategy 2018-2022. So in this sense, this year's reporting is a little bit particular because it will really help us in planning and prioritizing for the next 5 years. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, the whole set of the framework, the process, the tools, and the indicators have been developed by the 10YST Monitoring and Evaluation Task Force. You see here an overview of who the members of this task force are. As you can see, all 6 of the 10YST programs have been presented on the task force. The regional and national perspectives have been brought in at different levels, including now through the pilot testing of the SDG Target 12.1 reporting. And as you can see also, what was interesting in this task force is we had quite a varied group of stakeholders bringing in different types of perspectives. So from ministries of environment to different governments, from research institutes, UN agencies, NGOs such as WWF, and private sector entities. So hopefully that will have brought around make sure that we have not only integrated the different perspectives of the programs, but also the nature of the 10YST in the development of this indicator. So now to the indicators. Let's go directly to the indicators. I've kept you waiting long enough. So what are these indicators? What have we come up? As I mentioned at the beginning, one of the challenges we've had is really looking at identifying a limited and common set of indicators. So this is not seen as an exhaustive representation of what SCP does, but rather really looks at what are the common and main aspects that we would like to track on the shift list. Sustainable consumption and production. So on this slide, you see the logical flow of the indicators of success. As you can see, we can starting from the bottom. We have the output level indicators, the outcome level indicators on the second row, and the impact level at the top. The outputs and outcomes relate to the core objectives of the 10YST. And basically, what's interesting to keep in mind is that the output, the breakdown into output and outcome and impact level really helps us in supports the distinction between the different degrees of attribution and time scales for the results of the indicator. We look at the output level indicators, we look at products and services, results from your activities, and the outcome removed from the direct and the impact on longer term benefits. And we'll go into them in a little bit more detail on the next slide. So here on this slide, you see in a little bit more detail the output and outcome level indicators. As I mentioned, they are aligned to the 4 objectives. So the first objective of the 10YST at output level is really to support capacity building and facilitate access to financial and technical assistance. So what are we tracking under this objective? We're looking at the number of SCP projects supporting the shift to sustainable consumption and production. That allows us to understand the level of activity, the proxy for the level of activity across the network. We also look at financing the shift to SCP. This is the amount of financial resources that have been made available in support to the shift to sustainable consumption and production. So not necessarily by the structures around the 10YST, but in terms of each one of the organizations, how much are they moving towards supporting the shift to sustainable consumption and production, whether this is at government level or within a private sector organization or an agency or an NGO. And of course, as a third indicator under this objective, we look at training for SCP. So the number of person days of training on sustainable consumption and production that have been undertaken across the 10YST network. The second output level objective is to enable all stakeholders to share information and knowledge on sustainable consumption and production. So again, what are the core things that we're looking at under this objective? We look at the network, the existing network on sustainable consumption and production, the number of governments and other organizations engaged in the 10YST. We look at outreach and communication for sustainable consumption and production, so the number of activities focusing on SCP issues and the number of recipients. Of course, it can look at a number of things. It can include consultations, it can include communication campaigns, or communication products, and so on. And the third indicator that we track under this objective is the production of knowledge and technical tools on sustainable consumption and production. So again, these are knowledge resources, technical tools, publications, guidelines. That can also be digital tools, apps, and so on. So that really looks at the shorter term products that we produce. So in terms of the outcome level objective, which is accelerating the shift towards SCP and supporting regional and national policies and initiatives. Under that, what are we looking at? The outcome level indicators are really at the core of what the NYSP network aims to achieve in terms of meeting the objectives that was set in its establishment. So the indicators under this look at policy instruments for sustainable consumption and sustainable consumption and production. So the number of governments and other organizations developing, adopting, or implementing policy instruments supporting the shift to SCP. So again, this indicator in particular is at the core of the NYC. It is also, for those of you who are familiar with the SDG indicators, it is the same indicator as for SDG target 12.1. So National Focal Point, you will be familiar with this. The only difference between the two indicators is, of course, that in the context of the NYSP network, we don't only look at policies at government level, but also in private sector organizations, civil society, and UN agencies. The second indicator under this objective is monitoring and reporting on sustainable consumption and production. And again, this looks at officially established mechanisms for monitoring and reporting in the different organizations involved in this point. Education on SCP is also at the core of the outcome level indicators. Of course, in the NYC, this is a particular focus of the Sustainable Life Science and Education Program, which is particularly active on this indicator. But it actually involves all of the different programs, as many of the programs are involved in supporting education practices. For instance, in the building and construction program, this is happening, or procurement in the sustainable public procurement. The next indicator that we're looking at, the fourth indicator under this objective, is the changes in practice. And again, I would put this indicator on changes in practices really at the core of the NYC. I think the policy one and the changes in practices are the two main ones in which we can really show what difference they're all making in the shift to SCP. The changes in practice include a number of things. They can include a new technology that is being adopted, a new certification system, and you will find more details in the methodological sheet around this. So these can then be considered as some of the highlights and the tangible results that can be also disseminated to a wider audience. Some of the things that are most communicable to a larger public and to decision makers in terms of what we're doing and how we can support the shift. We also have commitments on sustainable consumption and production. So this is the number of high-level commitments covering SCP, and this allows us to track the political will and the political support that goes towards sustainable consumption and production, not only at government level, but across the different types of organizations involved in the NYC. In the last year, we've had a number of this. I know that this year is the year of tourism for sustainable development, for instance, and there have been a number of commitments that have been made at different levels throughout the year, specifically on sustainable tourism. Coordination on SCP, so the number of intersectoral or multi-stakeholder mechanisms for coordination on SCP, this mechanism really allows us to understand how policies or practices and so on are being adopted or implemented, how we can benefit from the multi-stakeholder nature. As you would have seen, there is a related indicator at output level, so we're looking at the network basically we want to see how active those networks are. By default, within the 10YC, of course, we have already a number of coordination mechanisms. The 10YC programs are coordination mechanisms in themselves, but there are a number of other coordination mechanisms which are also taking place. For instance, the regional roundtables on sustainable consumption and production, or the national initiatives in which the Ministry of Environment gets different ministries together to help with the implementation of SCP-related policies. And the last outcome level indicator is the use of the knowledge and technical tools. So again, you will have seen that at the output level we have looked at the production of knowledge and tools, but really based on the variety of tools that you across the network have all developed, which can really help different types of organizations at country level in the shift to sustainable consumption and production. This indicator helps us to understand how much these tools are being used and how much support may be needed to promote the tools that you may have across the network. So this really covers the output and outcome level indicators, which I think at this stage are really the core of what we would like to track in the 10YC, and the core of what is happening across the 10YC network, and the core of the activities that you are all already undertaking. Of course, then we would like to, these activities are also linked to a longer term benefits that we hope to achieve through these benefits. And these are the impact level indicators. So at the impact level, the Monitoring and Evaluation Task Force decided to collaborate with scientific entities, the International Resource Panel, and the Life Cycle Institute, so that these indicators could really benefit of a strong scientific foundation that has informed us all across the 10YC. So this was very much a collaborative work with these two entities. And on this slide, what you can see on the graph, as you can see on the left-hand side of the slide, is basically the model that the International Resource Panel has developed in terms of decoupling. The impact indicators of the 10YC are linked to the fourth and most overarching of the 10YC. It looks like it is to increase resource efficiency and decouple economic growth from environmental degradation, creating decent jobs, and contributing to poverty eradication and shared prosperity. How do we translate that into something that is a little bit more reachable to each one of us working on the SCP activity? In the context of the International Resource Panel work, they define decoupling as reducing the amount of resources economic growth and dealing with development and environmental. The International Resource Panel outlines four aspects: understanding and measuring decoupling environmental effect, and that is the figure that you can see on the left-hand side. And basically the four key aspects are human well-being, economic activity defined as GDP, resource use, and environmental impact. What I see on the right-hand side of the slide are then the impact level indicators that have been defined for the shift to sustainable consumption and production, and as a collaboration of the 10YC, the International Resource Panel, and the Life Cycle Institute. And you will see that basically the four levels, four key aspects that have been defined by the International Resource Panel are reflected in our own impact levels. We have resource efficiency related indicators, environmental impact related indicators, and human well-being related impact indicators. The economic activity you will not see in this table, as we have followed the International Resource Panel defined in terms of defining it as GDP. This again is an overview similar to the ones we showed you on the output and outcome level indicators, and I hope this doesn't scare you, but it's just to give you an understanding of what is actually behind these high level indicators. So as I mentioned, the first level is on resource efficiency. We'll look at material use efficiency, waste reduction, water use efficiency, and energy use efficiency. All of these four indicators have all of these 4 impacts have already existing measurements and protocols that have been defined either within the context of the SCPs or within other recognized international processes, such as, for instance, the IPCC guidelines or the International Labour Organization or the World Health Organization. So all of them are basically linked to existing protocols. We didn't think it would be necessary to reinvent protocols against impact. I won't go into much more detail than that. I just wanted to note that the link to the Sustainable Development Goals indicators is very prominent in the existing measurements, and this is a conscious and purposeful decision that was made within the task force, so that we can ensure that there are relevant links with the SDGs, SDG 12 of course at the center, but beyond that, as you can see, there are links to SDG 15, or to SDG 7 and SDG 3 and so on. This is of course related to the transversal nature of sustainable consumption and production, which cuts across many of the SDGs. One last point I would like to make on this, whereas really, as I mentioned before, the output and outcome level really reflect the activities that we are all undertaking across the network and for what we achieve on the short and medium term. The impact indicators are the longer term projections. We do not necessarily expect today that anyone across the NYC network reports on actual greenhouse gas emission reduction at the level of your activity. But rather, what we're interested in is able to link the activities that you are undertaking and the output and outcome level to certain impacts. Start defining what is, how SCP contributes to the different levels of impacts that we have, and how your different activities contribute to this impact. We have also integrated one point that allows us in future, if we wish to do so, to work on modeling and comparison of trends with scientific organizations such as the International Resource Panel. And this really looks at key projection measurements. So I'll take you back to the first column of this table, where under each one of the impact levels, you will see the key projection measurements for each one of them. The idea behind this is basically that different organizations are already tracking the evolution of certain indicators at national level. So, of course, in the NYC, number one, we're not going to replicate it, and number two, we probably don't see the value of measuring this at activity level. But it allows us to then compare trends. For instance, if a number of policies have been very effectively and strongly implemented in a specific country, it would be interesting 5, 10, or 15 years down the line to see whether the trends are comparable with some of these impact levels. So the 3 key projection measurements that we are referring to are the material footprint, which is being monitored by the International Resource Panel and for which data sets are already available. For the environmental impact level, we are relating to the climate change agenda and the IPCC guidelines on national greenhouse gas inventory. So that brings us to global warming potential and global temperature potential. Again, these are data sets that already exist, that are already being collected, and which we could compare trends further down the line to see how our policies or changes in practice contribute to this, or if the trends are related, of course. And the third and final impact level is on human well-being. And the key projection measurement that we have identified for this impact level is the Human Development Index that UNDP monitors on a yearly basis. So the data sets are publicly available and are collected on every year, and basically revolve around the same 3 impact indicators that we are looking at, so around gender, decent work, and health. So this really helps us to see whether, again, it helps us to compare trends at a human well-being level. The last image I would like to share with you in relation to the indicators and especially the impacts, the projected impacts on sustainable consumption and production, is this one, is how the impact indicators that we have identified and defined relate to the different SDGs. So there is more detail on the previous slide of the different SDGs that have been integrated as recommended measurements, and how then we go beyond basically SDG 12. I think this basically can really help us in understanding how we link to the entire Agenda 2030 agenda in some ways, in the sense that almost all of the SDGs you will see are linked to our impact indicators, and so how we can relate and talk about the interconnectedness of sustainable consumption and production. And it can also help us frame the narrative around the value of sustainable consumption and production. So before I hand over to Sophie on the actual online reporting tool, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the results of the pilot reporting. This is just to give you a little bit of an understanding of what came through in the pilot reporting at the beginning of the year. The pilot reporting was undertaken in January, February 2017, and the indicators were further improved on that on the basis of that pilot. And just give you an idea of what has come in, how we can use this information, what it looks like, and so on. So this table really provides you with indicator per indicator the numbers that we have collected across the 10 YSP networks and across all 10 YSP programs. So on the basis of this, and then the data can be further disaggregated, whether it's per program, per country, per region, per type of product, and so on. So this just gives you the general overview. And as you can see, I mean, at the beginning of the data that you had at the beginning of the year, we had tracked, for instance, 140 projects that were active across the network. We also tracked, for instance, 291 knowledge and technical tools that have been produced across the 10 YSP network. Or, for instance, 513 communication and outreach activities that have been undertaken across the 10 YSP network. Again, this is really the different actors involved in the 10 YSP indicating what had been done in support to the shift to sustainable consumption and production. And this is what we are looking at this year in an improved and refined version of the indicator framework and the online reporting system. The second slide really just gives you an idea of what are the graphics that we can then use behind it. So this information, once we have it, can be used in many different ways. We can make infographics, icons, posters, videos, whatever we need. We can make them as appealing as we need. So to be able to communicate what we are doing and be able to communicate the progress into sustainable consumption production, we need the data. Once we have the data, we can do a lot of things with it. And I guess my final point on this, on how the data is being used, is one of, as I mentioned at the beginning, this data, one of the endpoints where this data goes into, or the first point of entry in which this data goes into, is the report that goes to the high-level political forum every year. So you will find the same data in the report that was submitted in April this year, and the same next year, the data that you will be providing will be integrated as a contribution of all the organizations involved in the 10 YSP to the shift to sustainable consumption production. As you know, next year is also a big year at the high-level political forum. It's a review of SDG 12, among other SDGs. So we really hope that through this simplified reporting system, we will be able to not only communicate all of the great work that you're all doing across the network, but that you will also be able to highlight best practices and some of the highlights across the 10 YSP. So of course, in addition to communicating the results of the HLTS or any other communication material that might be developed, as I mentioned, the reporting can be used to showcase your efforts, influence the different approaches and practices, and to inform the development of our next strategy, and finally to really directly contribute to an implementation mechanism of Agenda 2030. That said, I'm going to hand over to Sophie, who will briefly take you through the online reporting system that has been developed.
Thank you. As Cecilia mentioned in the beginning, my name is Sophie Clausen. I am the Monitoring and Reporting Analyst with the SIMLIFE Secretariat. Before we go into the question and answers section of this session, I just want to quickly go through the new online reporting system with all of you to quickly highlight the efforts that we've made to ensure easy and effective reporting for all of you. Just to reiterate a few points that Cecilia made, this is really your opportunity to contribute to driving change in SCP approaches and practices, helping facilitate the program's ability to replicate and scale up best practice examples within the programs and across the entire network. It's an opportunity for the Secretariat and the co-leads and coordination desk to be able to assess and improve performance and thereby increase improved planning of activities and allocation of funds wherever necessary. And as Cecilia mentioned, this is a way for you to report and demonstrate your progress to show accountability to actors, to funding sources, and to communicate to the wider public, hopefully mobilizing further political and financial support. Specifically, again, as Cecilia said, for 2018, the SCP 12 is under review with the high-level political forum in July, and the 10YFP report will be a core part of this, and 10YFP will be engaging as much as we can to highlight best practices within the 10YFP network as well. So increasing reporting will increase your visibility also at the event in July. And obviously, in understanding the SCP in relation to Agenda 2030 through the 10YFP annual report, communication material, and so on. Cecilia also mentioned the midterm review and the strategy 2018 and 2022. The reporting this year will directly influence and guide the development of the strategy as well. So the development of the online reporting tool has gone through a consultative and collaborative process with the Monitoring and Evaluation Task Force of the 10YFP. It has gone through 3 separate testing rounds to ensure that we receive feedback from partners in both coordination desks and MAC members to ensure that it becomes as user-friendly and as easy for all of you to use as possible. The estimated time of reporting at this point is 4 to 7 minutes once you've familiarize yourself with the tools and the guidance material that we provide. So it should be hopefully quick and easy. There will be a lot of guidance material aside from what I'm showing you now available to you by a simple click. So please do take use of that. There will be a help desk option with each of the coordination programs. We have a specific focal point allocated for this. The same for technical support from the 10YFP Secretariat. So reporting will start from today. We'll launch the reporting for this year, and it will continue until the 15th of January in 2018, upon which the reporting will close. And after that, the coordination desk will go into a quality assurance process to ensure that all the activities reported have a sufficient quality for us to do analysis for the HLPS report and for communication material and so on and so on. And of course, you will be consulted if any changes are needed to any of your activity submissions. I want to go through the tool quickly with you just to show you where it's located, how do you access it, and a few simple tips and tricks in using it as well. So let me see here. Let me find the first example. So I hope some of you are already familiar with the SCP Clearinghouse. If you're not, we also have a separate webinar recorded on the SCP Clearinghouse YouTube that you can go and watch anytime that explains you how to log in and the simple functions of the SCP Clearinghouse. Reporting at the 10YFP from now on will be done through the SCP Clearinghouse exclusively for the programs. So you do need an account on the SCP Clearinghouse to be able to report. Once you get to the clearinghouse, to the front page, what you'll need to do, and I'll just show you for the ones of you that don't know what it looks like, this is the front page of the clearinghouse. Then you'll need to click on My SCP after you've logged in to your account. If you don't have an account, as I said, please create one. In here, you will see sort of your personal space. And in your personal space, you now have a new button called 10YSP reporting. You also have a button in the banner, similar to the other buttons that you have up here, called reporting, that will take you to the same page. So clicking on 10YSP reporting, you will go to your reporting hub. In here, if you've uploaded any initiatives to the 10YSP global, or to, this SCP Clearinghouse global database, you will see all your initiatives in here. It might be one of your colleagues that have uploaded it, but you might be the one responsible for reporting. If that's the case, your colleague will have to add you as an author, and then it will show up on your reporting hub as well, and you'll be able to report collaboratively on the project or on the initiative. As you can see here, for each initiative, you are able to report activities. You can report as many activities as you would like. If you've done a training and also some outreach activities, please report everything. If we move down here, you can also see in the case that you're for whatever reason, not comfortable. Sorry, I see here that there might be some audio issues. Please let us know if this is the case for everyone. But I'll continue unless we hear anything else. So I'll go back 1 second. Report an activity not related to an uploaded initiative. That is a possibility for you if you're not, for whatever reason, not comfortable uploading your initiative publicly on the global database. There is the opportunity to upload an activity not related to an uploaded initiative. We suggest for reporting purposes that you do upload your initiative. First of all, it creates more visibility for you on the global SCP clearinghouse, highlighting your project. It allows the 10YSP coordination desk and the 10YSP secretariat to highlight on social media your activities and your initiatives, and it allows for your reporting to be more structured and easy. And for your coordination desk, as the last point, for your coordination desk to have good analysis opportunities in terms of understanding, okay, we have these 10 initiatives, what within our network, what kind of activities are being done within them, which ones are best practice examples that we want to highlight, et cetera, et cetera. So to report an activity, for instance, under an initiative, what I'll do is click report an activity, and that will take me straight to my reporting. In the case that you haven't uploaded any initiatives yet, and I'll show you this from an account that has not, this is just a testing account. In the case that you've not uploaded any initiatives, as I said before, you can still report activities not related to an uploaded initiative, or you can upload your initiative first, come back to your My Reporting page, your reporting page in your My SCP, and then continue to report similar to what we did just a few seconds ago, directly under your initiative. So when you start reporting and you click on Report an Activity, whichever one of the two buttons you prefer to use, you will see a welcome message on your reporting system here. You'll see a few tips and trainings and guidance to allow you to kickstart and for reporting and help you with any issues you may have. This help section you can also find if you scroll all the way down to the bottom down here. You will see a Need Help section. Clicking on that will give you contact information for the program coordination desk, and it will give you contact information for the technical support of the 10YSP Secretariat in the use of your reporting. There's also a step-by-step guide with screenshots on how to report, and there's the full methodology of the indicators of success, as Cecilia explained before. So you can always go and have a look at that if you're interested. As you can see, one of the things that we've tried to do to ease your reporting process is that we have pre-filled some of your information. So you log into your account, you start reporting, you can see your organization's name, your own name, and your email address is already pre-filled. So on the first page, all you have to do is basically click whether you're part of the program coordination desk, a co-lead lead, or a MAC member, partner, or part of the 10YSP Secretariat. So I'll just click quickly here to show you what the next page looks like. Here, unfortunately, we have to scroll up. That's a technical thing. Okay, so here you can see the reporting of your activities. So Because I already had an uploaded initiative on the clearinghouse and I decided to report directly under this, my initiative title is already here, so I don't have to remember it, I don't have to write it in myself. Then you decide what you want to report on, and you saw it before when Cecilia went through it, all the indicators are represented here, so if you want to report an SCP project under your initiative or as a separate thing, if you want to report an outreach or communication activity, a change in practice, you see all of them here. Impact of the overall initiative is also a possibility. So I will click on one of these as an example. Let me just take policy instrument here. As you see now, I'll just close this. As you see now, you will get a description, a full description of what this policy instrument for SCP means. Clicking on the other activities will give you similar full descriptions of the activities types. You'll have to fill out some activity information in the context of the SIMRSP, so what program are you reporting under, etc. There'll be some activity-specific questions for you. These are all limited to a maximum of 5 questions per activity. You'll have to tell us a little bit about the actors involved. Who did you collaborate with? Who was the lead? There will be a section on funding and budget. This is an optional section, not a mandatory one. I hear that the sound is breaking up. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone is unmuted, so I'm not sure I can do much about it. But I'll try to speak a bit slower so that everybody hopefully gets everything. The next question you would have to answer is scope and location. So there's a little bit on sectors and countries of implementation, regions of implementation. As we talked about before, activity impacts, you can see these correspond exactly to what Cecilia presented earlier. And a narrative report, so this is primarily for communication purposes for us to identify best practice examples, both at Secretariat and coordination desk levels. And attachments, so please, if you have any attachments or websites that you want to connect to your activities, this will help greatly in any communication that we do and in verifying all the information that we get in. Remember to click submit at the end. Once you submit, you get a clarification, or not a clarification, a confirmation email. The confirmation email will include a little bit of information on the quality assurance process that we will be doing in the coordination desk after January 15th. It will include a PDF version of everything you've just submitted, and then it will include an edit link. So you can edit your submission at any time up until January 15th. And it can be edited in collaboration with the coordination desk between January 15th and February 15th. So I think that is all of the points that we have currently. As I said, at the bottom of the page, you can always find the help button and you can always contact us by email.
As I mentioned, with information on definition of really that part of information is available. Then of course you also have, as Sophie showed you, the help desk, also have the secretariat and your own coordination desk at program level. We are developing we have developed also some simple tools to help you out in the start of that. So there will be a quick step-by-step guide with screenshots to show you how to access certain things and a 5-minute video introducing you to the report. So there is quite a lot of material available to support you, and especially when you're conscious that the first time that one does it, it's always a little bit you have to get used to it. But it's pretty simple, and remember we're here for help and support. So and really encourage you to see this opportunity to show how each one of, how your organization, your activity contribute to the shift to sustainable consumption production and the implementation of SDG 12. That said, I think we can open to question and answers. So please feel free to either unmute yourself, raise your hand, or chat in the chat box. I think we have a couple of questions already in the chat box. So,
there's a question here from Shane that asks whether initiatives and activities are available for public viewing or if this is just for internal review. So initiatives uploaded onto the global database, which you're then reporting under afterwards. The initiatives themselves are publicly available, so they're visible to the public. And this is really your visibility opportunity on the SCP Clearinghouse. They then feed directly into your reporting page, but any activity that you report under them will not be visible to the public. That's only for internal review within the 10YSP. So what they'll be used for is specific analysis by the coordination desk within the programs to understand better the portfolio and the catalog of services that all the partners are able to provide. And for the 10YSP Secretariat to, as Cecilia mentioned, to prepare the report for the HLTF and communication material going out. And that will be done at different aggregation levels. So we will not be publishing any activity-specific information without direct consultation with the partners who support it. That will be part of the identifying best practice examples where we'll take direct contact. If there's any other questions or clarifications, I see from Mario here as well, how can, let me see, how can we contribute to the indicators application of a max SPC member not involved in particular activities? So the indicators are essentially activities. So as you can see, there was communications and outreach material, policies, coordination mechanisms, trainings, etc. So these activities, in case you're a MAC member and you have SCP-related activities within your program that are within these categories of the indicators, you can report us on those. I want to clarify.
For instance, one good example that you can look at on the Clearinghouse directory is the Sustainable Food Systems, and I think we have colleagues from the Sustainable Food Program, so Michael do not hesitate in either correcting me or adding on to what I'm just going to say. For instance, they have a system to identify core initiatives and activity projects of the program, so those are set. Those have already been treated and identified as activities and initiatives and projects that directly contribute to the objectives of the program. So those are the ones that primarily are going to be reporting in the context of the Sustainable Food Program. And different programs have taken different approaches, so I can't give you a firm answer on that. However, if you have activities or tools or solutions or practices that you have identified in a program that has not necessarily defined an approach on a specific approach on this, so feel free to submit the initiatives. The coordination desk and the colleagues of the program will anyway review these submissions and then may follow up with you individually. So the 10YP is really what is the network. So it's what you as individuals and organizations involved in the 10YP are doing in support of the shift to sustainable consumption production. Now it's obvious that at program level at least, the program colleagues have to ensure the consistency of what is being reported, and therefore there is a quality assurance process at that level. So in your case, Mario and the SCC program, I know that it's not a step methodology, so if you think you have any activities and initiatives that are relevant, please do submit.
Do we have any other questions? If so, please feel free to unmute yourselves, raise your hands, or send any questions in the chat. while we wait for potentially questions coming in on the chat in case people are still writing, I just wanted to highlight again that aside from the Q&A session now, we do have guidance material for you in terms of reporting, and as we said, there's a help desk section, so you can always ask these questions. Feel free to write the Secretariat at any time or contact your specific focal point under your programs. For program-specific questions, such as what Cecilia just explained in relation to activities, the programs might be able to give a further clarification on these points as well.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank the listeners time today and participating in the webinar. And as Sophie said, don't hesitate to get in touch if you need any help. And we look forward to highlighting all the great work that you're all doing in contributing to our system simultaneous interaction. Thank you.
Happy reporting.